Hey, what's up everybody? Anthony here from TCG Center, just bringing you guys my Mono Earth build that I played at Crystal Cup Toronto, as promised. So I'm not going to waste any time, let's get right into it and get through this thing as quick as possible, shall we? First card is Kam'lanaut. I don't think this card really needs any explanation at this point. We all know how good mono decks are in the meta, so this card was just absolutely mandatory to print. And I think this card has performed about at the level that everyone's expected. Maybe it's a little bit better than we initially expected, but yeah, great card, and fishes out another card in the deck that I think you all know what it will be. Next up is Guy. To be honest, this card wasn't really that useful for me at Crystal Cup Toronto because I think I only played against one dude who was playing Ice. So yeah, but I mean, you're playing Earth, so you might as well slam a couple copies of him in there because Ice still obviously is really popular. It just underperformed for me. The next card we have is Wall. You're playing Earth, you should be playing 3 of this. I don't think this card really needs any explanation at this point. It's pretty much the best forward in the game, in my opinion. It basically just allows you to get your damage in while also playing defensively by either, you know, giving your guys Brave or shutting off their EX burst and stuff like that so you can keep your board, which is a really important thing in Earth. Keeping your board is kind of everything, and then obviously making sure your guys are bigger is huge as well, and Wall just kind of accomplishes everything that you could possibly want to accomplish in Earth. So if you're not playing 3 of him, then you're probably doing something wrong. Next up is Ingus. It's a mono Earth deck, and this card's insane. Pretty much just guarantees that you win almost every combat, bar maybe like a Bismarck or something like that, which happened to me a couple times. But yeah, this card's nuts, and yeah, I definitely think it should be a 3 of. Next up, we have yet another self-explanatory card in Earth, and that's Gabranth. I think I only pulled off the Zodiark, I should say, Gabranth combo once the entire day, but that was also the game that I needed to win the most. Ended up, you know, putting me at 4-2 and giving me a chance to make top 16 cut. I didn't. I missed top 16 by 1 spot, as you all know, but if it wasn't for Gabranth Zodiark, I probably wouldn't even have had a shot. So next up we have just the one of Rydia. This card's pretty self-explanatory as well. For those of you who don't know what it does, it's pretty much just a one-sided board wipe because it'll deal 7,000 damage to all forwards that aren't Earth. So if you're going against like any other mono deck that isn't Earth, I try to keep this card alive as long as possible. And yeah, you can usually just wipe their board with this if the situation is right. Oops. Next up we have PSICOM Warden. This card's really good. I would say, I was expecting this card to be good, but I would say that it overperformed because basically in the mid game you can just slam all 3 of these guys down in rapid succession on the exact same turn. And then in this deck they are all 10Ks, so obviously that's pretty powerful. Being able to play out 3 10Ks on one turn is insane. And yeah, that just helps you really build your board and go wide in the mid game and start applying pressure. Next up we have the PSICOM Enforcer. As much as I love this card, you guys know I love this card. I mean, I kind of wrote an article on it, or at least included it in one of my articles, hyping it up at the beginning of the set. And to be honest, it's kind of underperformed for me. I haven't gone up against a lot of monster-based decks, so, but I would still play this as a one-of just to be safe because, you know, you never know when you're going to get smashed by monsters. Next up is 5-drop Cecil, card that I have loved and been crazy about since the beginning. This was another card that honestly just helped me so many times throughout the day, especially in my last match. My last match, I had 6 points of damage on me and 0 on my opponent. And if it wasn't for the Gabranth Zodiark combo and Cecil right here, I would not have been able to pull out a win against that deck, which was a mono water deck. Next up is Yang, or Yang, however you want to say it. This card is just a monster as well. I mean, it's mono Earth, so this card was basically designed for mono Earth. I see a lot of people playing it at 2. I think 3 is definitely the correct number. There were so many situations where I would slam one down, it would take them a while to get rid of him, and then I was just holding on to another copy, and as soon as they got rid of him, I just played another one, and yeah. It's really funny to see the look on your opponent's face when they finally get rid of him, and then you just slam another one down. They get extremely demoralized, and yeah, it can be pretty enjoyable. And my spicy tech, as promised, is the 2-drop Opus 2 Scarmiglione. This card is actually disgusting. I've been playing this deck since Opus 3 meta, since the beginning of Opus 3. Mono Earth has probably been my second most played deck behind Firewind. So obviously this card is unreal, and I used to play this in tandem with Opus 1 Kefka to kind of flash him in, tap the Kefka, and then all of a sudden you're trading up with a 10k with this for 2 mana, or 2 CP I should say. So yeah, this card's really insane. I don't know how spicy the tech is anymore because I played it on stream the day before Crystal Cup, so there were probably a lot of people who were expecting this card, and as I went around Crystal Cup to watch a couple games with whatever time I had, I think I saw one other person playing this card as well, so obviously playing it on stream the day before an event like that, probably not the best idea, and probably gave away my spicy tech, but I still love this card, and I always will love this card, and will probably always play it. Alright, on to my backups. So, as you all know, I love 1-drop backups in this game. I really like mono decks in this game, not as much as I used to, but obviously 1-drops are fantastic. It lets you keep cards in hand, and obviously a deck like this, you don't really have a lot of draw, so keeping cards in hand is super important, especially when you're playing a lot of 5-drops and bigger cards. Obviously, you know, Shantotto's a 7 and Zodiark is a 7 if you don't have Kam'lanaut on field. So I think this is super, super important in this deck, just keeping cards in hand and making sure you always have enough CP to pay for your combat tricks and whatnot. Next up, we have Mog. This card's super self-explanatory at this point. Card's fantastic. Just early backup, and then you get to search for any forward in the deck after, which is unreal. So, great card. Next up, we have Monk. So, this is a card that is actually underperforming for me now. I used to love this card, but I don't think Earth really has that much of a problem with winning combat anymore, so I was kind of just playing this as a contingency plan. I don't think the deck really needs it. I did not activate this card's ability once the entire day, so, you know, make of that what you will, but I think the card is a little bit underwhelming nowadays, but that's just my opinion. Next up is Doga. I mean, Doga is Doga, right? This card is nuts, keeps your dudes alive, and yeah, it's fantastic. Definitely use this way more than I use this, so. Next up is your power booster. Self-explanatory, mono earth, any mono deck, play 3 of your power booster. I think that's just one of the golden rules of FFTCG at this point. Next up is Grav'iton. Okay, so this card was super underwhelming. Granted, I'm only playing it as a 1-of, and I didn't go against any other mono earth decks, so this card was pretty underwhelming. I had it just in there for the mirror matchup and any other matchups where maybe they could somehow match my power or beat my power. It was there as a contingency plan for that, and it's also searchable off the Star Sibyl, so that's why it was there, but that would probably be an instant cut in my opinion. It was pretty underwhelming. Next up is Miner. This card's nuts. So if I could go back and change one thing, I'd probably just cut the Grav'iton and play an extra copy of Miner, and that would kind of be my backup lineup. Next up is the 1 Raubahn. Okay, so there was somebody on stream the day before Crystal Cup when we were doing our testing that was asking me, why are you playing the backup Raubahn and not the forward Raubahn? And the reason is simple. This one has EX Burst, and that's exactly what I wanted. And there's no real way for this deck to keep alive the forward Raubahn anyway, so I would rather just play the EX Burst. This has a way higher damage ceiling than the forward Raubahn does, obviously because, you know, your Yang and Cecil can get to like 11k or higher in this deck. So hitting this off EX Burst is huge, and hitting this off EX Burst actually won me a game, which was pretty insane. So card's really great. So I would maybe even up this by a copy, so cut the Grav'iton and either play an extra copy of Miner or an extra copy of Raubahn. So that's something to keep in mind. That's just my own personal opinion. Maybe you still want to play the forward Raubahn, and that's entirely up to you, but I like the backup more. Next up is 1 copy of Star Sibyl. This is another card that I would potentially go up to 2 if I was able to make any room for it. Maybe you can just like completely cut the monks, put in an extra Miner, and then play another copy of Star Sibyl or something. I really don't know where to go with this deck from here, and I don't know how much longer I really plan on playing it for now, because I'm kind of burnt out on it. And I'm also just kind of looking forward to going back to Fire Wind in the Opus 6 meta, because it looks like it's going to be pretty good. So, and that was my most played deck of all time. Next up is Shantotto. Super self-explanatory card. I'm not even going to go into this because it's just so self-explanatory. And yeah, I'm just going to get rid of all these forwards, and then we'll do a recap. So I can go over make some room, go over my summons real quick with you guys, explain those choices, and then we'll do a brief recap of the deck, as well as my overall thoughts and all the rest. Okay, so going into the summons. First up, we have the Zodiark. This one is super duper obvious. I mean, I'm playing 3 Gabranth for a reason, because I want this to go off. If I don't have to Shantotto, then that means I'm just straight up winning the game, because if I can just Zodiark and not have to Shantotto that game, I pretty much just won. And like I said, I only got the Zodiark off the 1 time the entire day, but if it wasn't for getting this off, I would have lost, so, and not even have come close to top 16. So, yeah, card's unreal. It's stupid that it synergizes the way that it does with Gabranth, and I don't know, maybe it'll get a Radad or something in the future, but yeah, this card's dumb. Next up is 2-drop Hecaton. Pretty self-explanatory. Your dudes are pretty much always going to be bigger in this deck, so there's no reason not to play this and just get rid of threats for really, really cheap. Card's self-explanatory. And perhaps the card after EX Raubahn, this is probably the card that I've gotten asked about the most, why I'm playing this, is the 4-drop Atomos. I know a lot of people who play Mono Earth play the 6-drop Atomos. Unless you're hitting 6-drop Atomos off EX Burst, I think that card is terrible. Paying 6 out of hand feels so horrible. This card literally just says 4 mana. If you have Cecil or Yang on board, literally just kill anything in the entire game, because you're dealing like 11,000, 12,000. I think I even dealt 13,000 damage with this in one of my games at one point. So this card is just absolutely ridiculous. It's pretty much just a better version of 4-drop Odin in Earth, because like I said, as long as you have Cecil or Yang on board and your power booster, you're pretty much killing everything in the game. So I really don't see a reason to play 6-drop Atomos over this. Sure, the EX Burst is nice and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you can make an argument for that. But I'm going for like maximum CP efficiency in this deck, because I'm already playing so many high-costed cards. Like, this deck is already just so top-heavy by nature, with the Shantottos and the Star Sibyls and the Cecils and the Yangs and the Zodiark, that, you know, going top-heavy on your summons as well just felt like a really, really bad idea to me. And this card performed about at the level that I thought it would, which was phenomenal. So I would go with this Atomos over 6-drop Atomos any day, but that's just my opinion. So that's the deck. That's all 50 cards. I know Kansas is coming up. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to attend that. But if you are going to Kansas and you're still looking for a deck, this deck is relatively easy to play, I would say. And honestly, the comeback potential in this deck is insane. Like, pretty much every game, my game plan was just eat up damage every single turn until I got to 5. And then once I got to 5, that's when I would start like blocking and defending my life and stuff like that. So that was basically how I was approaching the game. Maybe given the way the format was for this Crystal Cup, taking all that damage probably isn't the best thing to do, because your tiebreakers obviously come down to damage taken and all kinds of other factors like that, and damage done and stuff like that. So maybe just eating up 5 points of damage guaranteed every single game isn't the best idea, but I think that's definitely the correct way to play this deck. And overall, would I play this deck again at a Crystal Cup? Probably not. But that's just me personally. I think I'm just getting a little bit burnt out on this deck. And like I said, it doesn't have a lot of draw, which I don't usually like in games. Usually I like being able to play out a card every turn, or maybe multiple cards, and still being able to sit on 3, 4, and sometimes even 5 cards in hand. This deck does not do that. After pretty much turn 3, you're pretty much playing with 2 cards in hand at all times, maybe even less. Obviously, if you're going against ice, you basically just want to rapid fire out your backups as quick as possible, and then just be able to start playing down your big guys as soon as you draw into them, because otherwise those cards are going to get ditched from your hand, and you're probably going to lose. So overall, I think this deck is still very, very strong. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, especially not in the Opus 5 meta. Maybe that changes with Opus 6, because it looks like we're getting fire back in the meta, which means there's going to be a lot of aggro. Lightning still being very, very strong could potentially rush this deck down and just kill you before you're able to set up or do anything. But overall, if you are going to Kansas and you need a deck, I would definitely probably recommend this to you if you're not sure what you're going to play. Like I said, pretty easy to play, and obviously my spicy tech, the Scarm, came in handy. I actually won a couple games off of this Scarm. You can basically overextend with this Scarm if you're playing it, and just swing with all your guys, let them get tapped down. Even if they don't have Brave, you don't really care. And then they'll kind of like attack into you, expecting to have lethal or something, and then you just end up blocking with a Scarm. And next thing you know, they're short a point of damage from winning the game, and it comes back to your turn, and they're tapped down with their entire board, and you just swing through and win. So I won a couple games like that, and this card is nutty. So yeah, that's it, guys. If you enjoyed this deck list, please let me know. Any improvements that you'd potentially make to it, I'm open to suggestions as well. I love this deck. Like I said, I've been playing Mono Earth since the Opus 3 meta. Obviously, the deck has evolved a lot since then. So if you have any suggestions, I'm always looking to improve this deck. So thank you very much for watching, and good luck to those of you who are attending Crystal Cup Kansas. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.